Hello and welcome to Reporter's Take. I'm Aisha Sindhu. Today we head to West Asia, from where WION's Bureau Chief Aanchal Vohra has been bringing us stories from a non-Western perspective. On-ground details from the South Asian lens. Over the next half hour, we will bring you some of those reports and chat with Aanchal herself to gain further perspective on the events unfolding in the region. Now, on Sunday, the US President Donald Trump spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The big talk in the West Bank now is about Trump's promise to move the US Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Palestinians warn that it could plunge the region into a religious war. What is the mood in the region? West Asia's Bureau Chief Aanchal Vohra travelled through Ramallah in the West Bank, just north of Jerusalem, to gauge Palestinian sentiment. Watch this WION exclusive.
Jerusalem is the heart of Israel and Palestine, and it beats at the Temple Mount, as Jews call it, or Haram is Sharif, as Muslims do. A confluence of the three biggest monotheistic religions, this is where the belief is that God made Adam, where Abraham attempted to sacrifice his son Isaac, what Crusaders made into a church, and what is the third most revered site in Islam. Muslims believe it is here that Allah asked the Prophet to look at Kaaba. So, jurisdiction over this edifice is a highly sensitive matter. Since Israel annexed East Jerusalem from Jordan, where the old city with this structure lies, Jordan manages its affairs through a Waqf board. But now, Donald Trump says he will move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which in effect is America's strongest acknowledgement of Jerusalem being Israel's capital and not a disputed territory. So, how does Palestine look at this? I traveled to Ramallah, a 15 minutes drive, but an hour-long wait at the checkpoint. So what's behind the wall?
It's the Palestinian area. Palestinians people, they living inside.
Why is there a wall?
Because they are not allowed to go to Jerusalem.
Why?
They're not allowed to go to Jerusalem or to Israel. It's West Bank. They need a special visa to go outside.
Boards directing Israelis to not enter the Palestinian zone. Israeli cars are white with yellow number plates, and Palestinian cars are yellow with green number plates. Exclusion is the name of this game, and Ramallah seems caged within these walls. Graffiti of its hero, Yasser Arafat, on the walls is both a memory and a message. As an Indian, I am welcomed by Jews in Jerusalem and Palestinians in Ramallah alike. The Indian government has traditionally been a supporter of the Palestinian cause, but of late has warmed up to Israel. I meet Abel Tux, a member of the Palestinian People's Party, a communist socialist party that played a big role in the first Palestinian Intifada. Palestinians haven't forgotten their roots. Trump would do well to remember that. Abel warns the president he thinks will bring chaos to the region. Moving of the embassy, he says, is an end to the peace process, an end to the two-state solution.
If Palestinian people lose hope about the solution, especially about the two-state solution, and Israel is not willing to solve the problem, and Israel is confiscating land every day and building settlements in Palestinian lands every day, it means that there will be no hope for a solution. And when people lose hope, everything is possible, and violence can be not only in Palestine but in general, because we know that the Palestinian problem is the core issue of the conflict in the Middle East, and there is a real danger for violence in general and for religious wars in the region, especially if Donald Trump will support plans of Netanyahu for a Jewish state, which means that they will transfer the whole issue from political to religious war, which is very, very dangerous in general in Palestine, but in the region. It means that if the United States will support a Jewish state for Israel, some other countries will support some Islamic states as ISIS in Syria, and they were supporting and they are still supporting some kind of religious states in Syria and Iraq, which means that the whole conflict in the region will be a religious war, which is very, very, very dangerous for all of us, for all of the region and for the world in general.
Governing Ramallah, the Fateh party says there will be violence, but has a different plan in mind to take on the might of the US.
What happened in Syria after Russia entered the Syria problem and solved this problem and end the war in Halab, and everything is good now in Syria. We hope what happened in Syria happened in West Bank, and Russia and Putin stand with Palestinian government and with Abu Mazen and stand with us to solve our problem, to demand from Trump to cannot take this decision, because everything maybe happened in the future in Palestine or in West Bank after Trump took this decision.
Russia has already been trying to bring the two Palestinian factions, Fatah in Ramallah and Gaza Strip rulers of Hamas, together. Faiz Warda, a Hamas leader, has been arrested 5 times before by both the Israelis and Fatah. He says Russia is a friend.
Our views of Russia is different from America. We look at Russia as a friend. Always in the past, they stand with the Palestine. Russia in the last period are holding a reconciliation process between Fatah and Hamas, so all Palestinian parties are united. Russia is supporting Palestinian struggle.
Russia is being seen as a superpower in this region, so much so that even the Palestinians want Russia to play a much bigger role in the Israel-Palestine conflict. Palestine wants Russia to take on Israel and the US on its behalf. So will Russia give in to the dreams of being the regional hegemon, or will it instead use this as leverage to crack a deal with the US for economic purposes?
Trump phoned Netanyahu days after taking the Oval. While he held off to the announcement of moving the embassy, soon after the phone call, Israel restarted work in settlements in East Jerusalem. In Ramallah in Palestine, Anchal Vora, WION.
In fact, Anchal Vora joins us now from Beirut in Lebanon. WION's viewers can also tweet us or use our Facebook page to take questions to Anchal directly during this broadcast that I'll be happy to take to her. But for now, I'm going to go across to Anchal with my first question. While you were there in Ramallah, Anchal, what did you see and who were the kind of people you managed to meet?
Well, I met Hamas, I met Fatah, I met people who sort of talked to the international community, and the person there who I interviewed from the Palestinian People's Party, somebody who was very regularly coming to India. In fact, he was telling me that he'd recently been invited to India. And I spoke to a lot of people on the ground as well. So essentially the feeling that I got was it was quite sad to see all of these people living behind closed doors. Their daily lives are very, very difficult. Movement is very difficult for them. Though within Ramallah there is a sense of normalcy, as it were. It doesn't look like an old pariah state. People are going to school. There are buildings that give you a semblance of an institution. And a lot of people there talking about how they would want to make peace with Israel and wanting to live next door to Israel.
Anchal, did you find that there was hope in those people that you met, that there is a possible solution on the cards to the Israel-Palestine conflict?
Well, that's what people have been hoping for. A lot of Palestinians have been hoping that there will be a two-state solution. That's what they've been banking on. They're largely hoping that the international community would come up with that. If you remember, just days before Donald Trump took the Oval in Paris, there was this huge conference that was organized. It was organized for the benefit of Donald Trump to really see that the international community supports a two-state solution. But now, when Trump says he wants to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, that does not have anybody in Ramallah in a good mood, and what they say is this could turn into a violent situation if Trump supports Netanyahu in making Israel a more Jewish state than it already is. Then there will be players who would want to make Palestinians more Muslim than they are Palestinian, and that would start a religious war. A lot of factions, a lot of people have already said that they're very unhappy with the fact that Trump won't want to move the embassy, and a lot of people say that he would want to do it for the evangelical Christian vote that he has gotten good numbers in this election and would want in the future too. So when you talk about the solution, a lot of people are spoke to want a two-state solution, but if they say that if Trump can't make things better, then he should certainly try to not make things worse.
Okay, Aanchal, hang on with us. We want to take our viewers through one of the other stories that you have filed for us while they're in West Asia. I'd like to remind our viewers that they are welcome to send across questions for Aanchal. She's going to be live with us through this broadcast on these stories that she's bringing to us from West Asia. You can tweet us, and you can also use WION's Facebook page to get those questions across to us. But let's move on. Like many other issues, it isn't yet clear as to what Donald Trump intends on doing in the Middle East. Only indications so far, strengthening the understanding with Russia and letting her be the dominant one in Syria. On Israel and the Palestine conflict, the new American president is quite pro the Jewish state. Aanchal Vora visited the old city in Jerusalem, where she spoke to Israeli soldiers, dancers and Palestinian shopkeepers on who they preferred, Obama or Trump.
As Donald Trump takes the Oval Office, the walls of this ancient city have its ears to the ground. Jerusalem, the promised land, a divided land, a divisive land. One of the dangerous ideas Trump seems to be flirting with is shifting the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The historical city is claimed by both Israelis and the Palestinians. Let's have a look at the shifting fate of the city in modern history. In the 1948 Arab-Israel War, Israel had West Jerusalem and East Jerusalem was with Jordan. In the 1967 war, Israel annexed East Jerusalem. The international community urges Israel to return to pre-1967 borders. There is no embassy based in Jerusalem. We meet Gal, a tap dancer. She says there is no question Jerusalem belongs to Israel, but a liberal Israeli, she is critical of Donald Trump.
If I have to choose, Obama. But why? Because he is qualified. I don't know if he made all the right choices, but I think he did his best for his vision. I have a feeling that we're gonna have a war soon. Something, yeah. I don't know. I think that someone who's not qualified for the job, we don't know what will come out of it. Yes.
David is 19. He's one of Israel's young soldiers being trained to protect the Jewish state.
אובמה גם היה טוב, אבל טראמפ הוא נראה יותר חד במה שהוא עושה ומה שהוא יעשה בעזרת השם, ויש מצב שהמדינה שלנו תהיה יותר חופשייה, וגם לעניין קו הירוק וזה, זה יהיה יותר משוחרר.
Through the Obama presidency, Netanyahu had an uneasy relationship with the Oval. Obama was the first president in the history of the United States of America to have abstained from the UN on a vote on Israeli settlements in borders post the 1948 war. Israel saw it as betrayal. In his farewell speech, Obama spoke of the two-nation solution. On the contrary, Trump's advisor on Israel policy, David Friedman, the man soon to be America's next envoy to Israel, is staunchly against the two-state solution and is pro-Israeli settlements. In fact, to move the embassy from Tel Aviv is Mr. Friedman's idea.
יכול להיות שיהיה בעיות, אבל צריך לקחת את ההימור הזה. צריך ללכת על זה עד הסוף.
It certainly would be a risk worth taking for the Palestinians and other Arab friends too. But even the Palestinians we spoke to aren't dismissing Trump yet. However disappointed they say they are with America and the international community. Catering to the tourists and Israelis alike, the shopkeepers in the old city are Palestinians. And while most are afraid of talking to the press, one of them speaks to us. Louis has been a shopkeeper in the old city for as long as he can remember.
For how long he was president, the last 8 years, what did he change? What did he change? Explain to me, what did he change in the whole world?
Do you like Trump?
Well, I don't know him. So I don't say I don't like him. I say I don't like. So everybody's making him like he's a devil. He didn't do nothing. Let's wait and see what he's gonna do. Don't ask anybody who you like. Obama, he didn't do anything.
Palestinians say Israelis have occupied their land. Israelis say this has always been their home, so all they did was return. Palestinians say Israelis kill us. Israelis say no, they kill us. The Israeli-Palestinian crisis has been at the very heart of the conflict in the Middle East. So if the Trump decision takes any callous decision, it will have a ripple effect in the entire region. This crisis resonates not just in the Middle East, but also as far as India. Now, Trump does want the support of the evangelical Christians even in the next election. So he is, hence, more pro-Israel than he is Palestine. But what about Iran, Russia's new ally? Trump can perhaps have the Saudis dominate in Yemen over Iran, but not in Syria. In Jerusalem, Anchal Vora, WION.
In fact, Anchal Vora is joining us from Lebanon right now to take more questions on what exactly is going on in the region. Of course, you're open to send some questions across to us using social media as well. Anchal, from your report, it seems quite obvious that public opinion is really divided as far as Trump and Obama go.
Well, certainly it is. I mean, there are a lot of people who support Trump, but then there are a fair share who support Obama, and that is quite a reflection of the Israeli society at the moment. There's a huge divide between the conservatives and the liberals there, just as I've seen in Turkey and just as is beginning to happen in America and we're beginning to report on, and perhaps to some extent even in India. So there seems to be a global pattern there. A lot of people there supported Obama, and there were those who spoke of Trump's policy being pro-Israel. But largely the kind of people that I met there said that the idea to move the embassy would be sort of trying to create problems, and that is because everything is moving fine. And if it is moving fine, then why move it? And if you notice, then Donald Trump has at least held on to that announcement when he phoned Netanyahu. But soon after that, other activities Israel has really taken up, which will continue to have a damaging effect on the region. The international community is together when it says that it wants a two-state solution and nothing else but that would do, and that if settlements continue to take place, then that does not serve the peace process at all. And I've been in Ramallah, and I can tell you from what I heard from the people, they want to be a state, and they sort of would want the international community to come forward, and even their other neighbors, to help them realize that dream.
Right, Anchal. I'm going to ask you to stay on with us. There's another story, I think, which will be of interest to our viewers as well. It emanates from the same region. Now, the New Year's Eve attack seems to have deepened the divide in an already polarized Turkey. And as this divide deepens, how exactly are different segments looking at President Erdogan's march to an all-powerful presidency? Anchal Vora was in Istanbul earlier and filed this report from the Turkish city.
Is Erdogan's great leap forward the deepest plunge for Kemalist Turkey? The AKP has secured the necessary 330 votes in the Turkish parliament to bring about a constitutional change once a referendum provides the final approval. Erdogan wants to do away with the position of Prime Minister, a rank he held for over 10 years, usher in executive presidency, and in how it's being seen, end judicial independence. All purportedly for a prosperous Turkey on the lines of the United States and France. So what's the problem? The seculars fear such power would embolden an already authoritarian president.
Let's take the case of the most recent terror attack in Istanbul, which has re-emphasized the fault line between the conservatives and the modernists in the erstwhile Ottoman Empire. We spoke to a senior journalist of Hurriyet, a liberal newspaper, often at the receiving end of the government's wrath in Turkey.
After this atrocity has taken place in the nightclub, normally you would unite everybody in expressing sorrow. However, unfortunately, we had social media comments who said that some people said they were not sorry for those who were celebrating the New Year Eve because supposedly it is against our religion, which is of course not true at all.
The attack on Rayna nightclub is an attack on secularism, on European values, on Christian values, and not on Muslims. That belief is held in both radical and secular quarters in Turkey. ISIS uses this division. A lot of ISIS propaganda in Turkey has played to it. Yeni Akit, a Turkish newspaper, warned against celebrating New Year's Eve. Look at this. It says, New Year is a sin. Muslims shouldn't celebrate it. Another story published in the paper says, if you celebrate infidel days, you will get what you deserve. In another instance, the Anatolia Youth Association's Istanbul University branch released an illustration of a bearded Muslim punching Santa Claus in the face.
When the government remains silent against criticism and warnings from certain quarters against those who want to celebrate, then obviously this silence is being interpreted by certain radical elements as a tacit approval. That's why remaining silent was a mistake.
The seculars blame Erdogan and his policies, sometimes his silence, for the radicalization in Turkey, and worry the lines between non-violent extremists and violent extremists might blur soon if Erdogan isn't checked. Calling it a fight for existence, they shudder to think, what would an all-powerful President Erdogan do? Daily Sabah, though, media that's seen as close to the government, doesn't think it's a liberal versus conservative clash, but a power struggle between the old and the new elite. The editor-in-chief of the paper, Mr. Karagöz, is a new member of the intellectual elite, and he says President Erdogan is the new political elite.
Turkish elites are changing right now. From the rural area, the average Turks, they are becoming to center from the periphery. So we see new elites, new conservative elites, religious people on the elite area. And we call some people in Turkey White Turks. White Turks was Kemalists. They were very strong. They were controlling everything. Now it's changing. Now religious, conservative, well-educated people are coming from periphery to center, and now it's not polarization. It's conflict between old elites and new elites.
A clash of ideologies or a clash of classes. Turkey is going through a churn. The seculars feel that Erdogan is using the coup attempt and the terror attacks on liberals to curtail liberty in Turkey. They want to fight him tooth and nail, but face a demographic challenge. That is precisely Erdogan's strength, and he wants to use it as Turkey approaches a referendum on his executive presidency. So the question really is, will the non-radical, non-extremist conservatives, hopefully the majority that voted for Erdogan, opt for a majoritarian, authoritarian Turkey, or a democracy for equal rights for all, even if that right is to choose celebrating the arrival of a new year? Anchal Vora, WION.
And before we wrap up this special, I have time for just one quick question for Achal. Achal, when it comes to the Islamicization of Turkish society under Erdogan, is that a monkey on his back or something he's simply taken in his stride?
Well, you know, the point of the matter is that Erdogan essentially has been promoting certain ideology there. He calls his party Justice and Development Party, but the fact of the matter is that his government is seen to be Islamist, something that he said that he is a conservative leader. But for the seculars in Turkey, it really is a fight for their survival, a fight for their existence, and they think that the seeds that have been sown by the Erdogan government, has been in power for quite a few years now, that could have a damaging impact on Turkey.
All right, Achal, thanks for keeping it short and for joining us for that half-an-hour special that we brought you from Lebanon. Achal Vora, thanks for tuning in and joining us actually for that conversation. I'm going to wrap up the show on that note. Thanks for joining us here on WION.